The screams could be heard across the entire playground. Monica Reeves had only looked away for a moment, just long enough to answer a text from work, when chaos erupted near the jungle gym. Her 8-year-old son Elijah's wails cut through the peaceful spring afternoon like a siren, instantly triggering that primal maternal instinct that made her heart race before her mind could even process what was happening. She sprinted across the wood chips, purse bouncing wildly against her hip, to find Elijah crumpled at the base of the slide, clutching his arm. Hovering over him was a middle-aged woman with an aggressively highlighted blonde bob and oversized sunglasses, her manicured finger wagging in Elijah's tear-streaked face. "Your son pushed my Mackenzie off the platform," the woman screeched, not even acknowledging Monica's arrival. "Look at her knee. It's scraped. Do you know how much these leggings cost?" Monica crouched beside Elijah, who was shaking his head frantically through tears. "I didn't, Mom. I didn't push anyone." His right arm was already beginning to swell, and Monica felt a surge of protective fury rise in her chest. "Excuse me, but my son is clearly injured," Monica said, struggling to keep her voice level. "Maybe we should make sure both children are okay before throwing around accusations." The woman, whom Monica would later refer to simply as Karen when recounting this story, crossed her arms and huffed. "Well, I saw the whole thing. Your son is a little monster who needs discipline. Some parents these days just don't know how to control their children." A small crowd of other parents had begun to gather, drawn by the commotion. Monica noticed the woman's daughter, presumably Mackenzie, standing perfectly fine several feet away, looking more embarrassed than hurt. "I'm sorry, but you don't speak to my child that way," Monica said, helping Elijah to his feet. "And you certainly don't put your hands on someone else's child." Karen's nostrils flared. "I barely touched him. I was simply trying to make him apologize to my daughter." A teenage boy stepped forward from the gathering onlookers. "Actually, ma'am, I was watching. Your daughter tripped and fell on her own, and when this little guy tried to help her up, you yanked him away by his arm." Karen's face contorted with rage. "How dare you? Do you know who I am? My husband is on the board of the Homeowners Association, and I can have your park privileges revoked in a heartbeat." Monica pulled out her phone. "I'm going to need your name." "For what?" Karen sneered. "Because I'm taking my son to the emergency room, and if his arm is broken, the hospital will want to know who grabbed him." Karen stepped closer, her voice dropping to a threatening whisper. "Listen here. I've lived in Oakwood Heights for 15 years. My husband basically runs this community. You really don't want to mess with me." What Karen couldn't have known was that Monica Reeves wasn't just any concerned mother. After 10 years as a paralegal specializing in personal injury cases, she knew exactly how to document an incident. But more importantly, she was married to Daniel Reeves, a senior intelligence analyst with the Federal Bureau of Investigation. A fact that didn't seem relevant until Karen's threats escalated in ways no one at the peaceful suburban playground could have anticipated. "Come on, Elijah," Monica said calmly, taking a photo of her son's swelling arm. "Let's get you to the doctor." As they walked away, Karen called after them, "This isn't over. You'll be hearing from us." Monica looked back over her shoulder, her expression unnervingly calm. "Yes," she said quietly, "I imagine we will." She had no idea then how prophetic those words would prove to be, or how a simple playground confrontation would spiral into a neighborhood scandal that would eventually involve federal authorities, hidden cameras, and a conspiracy that had been festering in Oakwood Heights long before Monica and her family had moved in 6 months ago. The X-ray confirmed what Monica had feared. Elijah's arm wasn't broken, but he had suffered a moderate sprain that the emergency room doctor attributed to forceful manipulation. As the physician wrapped Elijah's arm, Monica texted her husband Daniel, who was away on a 3-day training in Quantico. His response was immediate and alarming. "Document everything. Don't post on social media. We'll call when I can." Daniel's caution wasn't surprising. As an FBI intelligence analyst specializing in white-collar crime and domestic threats, he approached every situation with measured calculation. It was what made him exceptional at his job and sometimes frustrating as a husband. Monica knew he wouldn't overreact, but his terse message suggested he was taking this more seriously than she had expected. By the time they arrived home, the neighborhood Facebook group was already buzzing. Monica scrolled through her phone while Elijah dozed on the couch, the pain medication making him drowsy. "Dangerous child at Oakwood Park," read the post from Bethany Harrington, Karen, whose real name Monica now knew. "Parents beware. An unsupervised boy pushed my daughter off the playground equipment today. When confronted, his mother became aggressive and threatening. The family lives in the new development on Sycamore Lane. Keep your children away from this troubled child." The comments were a mixture of concerned parents vowing vigilance and a few questioning voices asking for more details. Monica's finger hovered over the keyboard, tempted to defend her son, but Daniel's warning echoed in her mind. Instead, she took screenshots and closed the app. The doorbell rang at 7:30 p.m. Through the peephole, Monica saw a man in a polo shirt tucked into khaki pants, his thinning hair carefully combed over a bald spot. Behind him stood Bethany, arms crossed triumphantly. "Mrs. Reeves," the man said when Monica opened the door, "I'm Richard Harrington, president of the Oakwood Heights Homeowners Association. We need to discuss the incident that occurred today." Monica stood firmly in the doorway. "My son is resting. He was injured today." "Yes, well, we have a formal complaint process for playground incidents," Richard continued, attempting to sound official. "As you're new to our community, you may not be aware of our strict policies regarding child supervision and conduct." Bethany peered around her husband. "Where is your husband? He should be part of this discussion." "He's away on business," Monica replied coolly. "Convenient," Bethany muttered. Richard cleared his throat. "We'll need you to sign this acknowledgement of the incident and agreement to our remediation plan." He held out a document that Monica didn't reach for. "What exactly is your remediation plan?" she asked. "Given the severity of the incident, we're implementing a 30-day suspension of park privileges for your family, mandatory supervision when your son returns to community spaces, and a formal apology to the Harringtons," Richard recited as if reading from a script. Monica felt a calm settle over her that she recognized from her years working on difficult cases. "I won't be signing anything. There are multiple witnesses who saw your wife grab my son's arm, causing the injury that was just treated at Memorial Hospital. Now, unless you'd like to discuss possible assault charges against Bethany, I suggest you leave." Richard's face flushed. "Now see here." "No, you see here," Monica interrupted. "I've taken photos, gotten medical documentation, and collected contact information from witnesses. My husband will be home tomorrow, and we can discuss this further then if you wish." Bethany stepped forward, her voice dropping to a menacing whisper. "You have no idea who you're dealing with. Richard doesn't just run the HOA. He has connections throughout this county, judges, police officers, school board members. One word from him, and your life here becomes very difficult." Monica smiled slightly. "Is that a threat, Mrs. Harrington?" "It's a reality check," Richard interjected. "We maintain a certain standard in Oakwood Heights. If you can't adapt to our community values, perhaps this isn't the right neighborhood for your family." Daniel arrived home just after midnight, his normally meticulous appearance disheveled from the 3-hour drive. Monica had expected him to be tired, irritable even, but instead found him alert and focused as he reviewed the security footage from their doorbell camera. "There," he said, pointing to a timestamp from 2 days earlier. On screen, a sleek black Audi pulled into the Harringtons' driveway across the street. A man in an expensive suit emerged, carrying what looked like a leather portfolio. "That's Vincent Corelli." "Should I know who that is?" Monica asked, wrapping her robe tighter around herself. Daniel's expression remained neutral, but Monica recognized the tension in his jaw. After 12 years of marriage, she knew when her husband was transitioning from concerned father to federal investigator. Officially, he's a real estate developer. Unofficially, he's suspected of laundering money for several organizations that the Bureau has been monitoring. Daniel paused, choosing his words carefully. "I can't share details, but seeing him at the Harringtons raises questions." "You think this playground incident is connected to your work?" Monica asked incredulously. "I think it's a remarkable coincidence that we move into this neighborhood and 6 months later my son has a run-in with the wife of a man who might be involved with individuals of interest." Daniel rubbed his eyes. "Or maybe Bethany Harrington is just a garden-variety Karen who picked the wrong kid to bully." The following morning, Daniel took Elijah to his pediatrician for a follow-up while Monica went to work. Her boss at Goldstein and Meyer Legal Services was sympathetic about Elijah's injury but less understanding about her need to leave early again. 3 new cases had come in, all requiring immediate attention. "Just finish the Westlake deposition summary before you go," Martin Goldstein told her. "The insurance company's stalling and we need to apply pressure." Monica was deep in legal documents when her cell phone buzzed with an unfamiliar number. Against her better judgment, she answered. "Ms. Reeves? This is Amanda Chen from Oakwood Elementary. There's been an incident during Elijah's lunch period. He's fine," she added quickly, "but we need you to come in right away." Monica's heart sank as she drove to the school. Daniel had dropped Elijah off that morning with specific instructions to the principal about keeping Mackenzie Harrington separate from him, given yesterday's events. Something had obviously gone wrong. In the principal's office, Elijah sat with an ice pack on his cheek. Across the room, a red-faced Bethany Harrington was gesticulating wildly while speaking to Principal Walsh. "There you are," Bethany snapped when Monica entered. "Your violent son struck my daughter with a lunch tray. I want him expelled immediately." Principal Walsh, a veteran educator who had seen every type of parent confrontation, raised her hand for silence. "Mrs. Harrington, as I was explaining, the cafeteria monitors and 3 student witnesses confirmed that Elijah was defending himself after Mackenzie poured milk on his lap and called him names. Lies, Bethany hissed. My daughter would never. We have it on camera, Mrs. Harrington, Principal Walsh interrupted calmly. Mackenzie has been having some behavioral issues lately, which I've tried to discuss with you several times. Bethany's face contorted with rage. Do you know who my husband is? One call from Richard, and the school board will have you removed by tomorrow. A shadow fell across the doorway as Daniel entered, still in his bureau attire, dress shirt, tie, dark suit, and the telltale bulge of his credentials wallet in his breast pocket. His presence immediately changed the atmosphere in the room. I had apologized for interrupting, he said with quiet authority. I came as soon as Monica called. Principal Walsh looked relieved. Mr. Reeves, thank you for coming. We were just discussing. You must be Mrs. Harrington, Daniel cut in, extending his hand to Bethany. I believe we haven't formally met, though you've already had significant contact with my wife and son. Bethany ignored his hand, her eyes narrowing as she took in his professional appearance. And what exactly do you do, Mr. Reeves, that allows you to leave work whenever your troublemaker son causes problems? Daniel smiled slightly. I work for the federal government, Mrs. Harrington, in an analytical capacity. Something in his tone must have registered with Bethany because her expression flickered with uncertainty for the first time. What agency? Instead of answering, Daniel turned to Principal Walsh. I'd like to see the cafeteria footage if possible. Also, given the pattern of harassment, we'll need copies for our records. Harassment? Bethany's voice rose an octave. The only harassment is from your family. First the playground, and now this, Richard Will. The MPI safe house was modest but secure. A two-bedroom apartment in a neighboring county that showed no connection to the bureau. Monica watched Elijah explore the unfamiliar space with surprising enthusiasm, treating their sudden relocation like an adventure rather than what it truly was, a necessary precaution. How long do we stay here? She asked Daniel, who was setting up a laptop at the kitchen table. Just until we complete the initial raid, he replied, his voice low to keep from alarming Elijah. Jeff pulled some strings to fast-track the warrants based on the evidence we already had. The threatening text message helped. Monica hugged herself, still shaken. I don't understand. We moved to Oakwood Heights because it was supposed to be safe. How did we end up in the middle of whatever this is? Daniel's hands still on the keyboard. That's what's been bothering me. The Bureau has been investigating the Corelli network for over a year. 6 months ago, we identified suspicious real estate transactions in several counties, including developments in Oakwood Heights. The same month, I started looking for a house for us. You think someone in the Corelli organization recognized your name on the property records? Daniel nodded grimly. And they've been watching us ever since, trying to figure out if our move was coincidental or part of an operation. Bethany's confrontation with Elijah may have been genuine care and behavior, but it provided Richard with an opportunity to pressure us to see how we'd react. That's why he was so insistent that I signed that document, Monica realized. It wasn't just about the playground. He wanted a paper trail showing that an FBI employee's family was causing problems in the neighborhood. Ammunition. Exactly. Potential leverage. Daniel's phone buzzed. He checked the message and stood abruptly. The team's in position. I need to go. Be careful, Monica whispered as he kissed her goodbye. Always am. He ruffled Elijah's hair on his way out. Be good for Mom, buddy. I'll be back before you know it. After Daniel left, Monica tried to distract herself by helping Elijah with his homework, but her mind kept returning to the events of the past 2 days, how quickly their lives had unraveled from a simple playground confrontation. She was reviewing Elijah's math problems when her phone rang. Monica? It's Caroline Adams from next door. Their neighbor sounded frantic. There are FBI agents everywhere. They're at the Harrington's house, and I think they're at your place too. What's going on? Monica chose her words carefully. We're not home right now, Caroline. I can't really discuss it. Well, they're taking boxes out of both houses. And oh my God, they just brought Richard Harrington out in handcuffs. Bethany is screaming at the agents. Wait, they're putting her in a car too. After reassuring Caroline that her family was safe and ending the call, Monica texted Daniel. Neighbors report both Ace in custody. Everything ok. Its response came an hour later. All good. Multiple arrests across 3 counties. Found something at our house you need to see. Stay put. It was nearly midnight when Daniel finally returned to the safe house, looking exhausted but satisfied. After checking on a sleeping Elijah, he joined Monica in the living room and opened his laptop. The operation was bigger than we anticipated, he explained. Richard Harrington wasn't just laundering money through real estate deals. He was using his position in the HOA to identify potential properties for a complex mortgage fraud scheme. What does that have to do with us? Daniel pulled up a series of photos. These were taken from a hidden camera installed in our living room vent. There were similar devices in our bedroom and Elijah's room. Monica felt violated, nauseous. They were spying on us? For how long? Based on the file timestamps since about a week after we moved in, Daniel said grimly. But here's where it gets interesting. He clicked through to a document. This is from Richard's home office. It's a detailed dossier on our family, where we came from, my position at the bureau, your job at the law firm. Everything. But why? If they knew you worked for the FBI, why risk antagonizing us? Daniel leaned back, rubbing his temples. That's the part that makes this case unusual. According to preliminary interrogations, Corelli's organization was getting nervous about increased federal scrutiny. When they spotted my name on the property records, they thought I might be part of an undercover operation. Richard was tasked with finding out what I knew. By spying on us? By having his wife attack our son. The initial surveillance was Corelli's idea. The playground incident was just bad luck. Bethany really is that entitled. But Richard saw an opportunity to provoke us to see if I'd use. 3 months after the Harringtons' arrest, Oakwood Heights had settled into an uneasy new normal. The scandal had upended the community's perception of itself as an idyllic suburb. 7 members of the HOA board had been implicated in Richard's schemes, and property values had temporarily plummeted as the extent of the mortgage fraud became public knowledge. For the Reeves family, returning home had been a gradual process. The FBI had swept their house for additional surveillance devices, replaced compromised electronics, and established enhanced security measures. Daniel had taken a temporary desk assignment to remain close to home during the transition, and Monica had negotiated a partial work-from-home arrangement with her firm, which was now handling several civil cases stemming from the fraud. Elijah's arm had healed completely, but the psychological effects lingered. He was quieter now, more watchful at the playground. The school counselor assured them this was normal, a phase that would pass with time and consistent support. On a crisp Saturday morning in early autumn, Monica sat on their patio reviewing depositions while Daniel grilled burgers for lunch. Elijah was inside, reluctant to join the neighborhood children who had gathered for a pickup soccer game in the communal field behind their homes. "Still working?" Daniel asked, sliding a glass of iced tea toward her. Monica nodded without looking up. The Willoughby case. They lost nearly everything investing in Richard's fake development fund. "We got most of the money back in the seizures," Daniel reminded her. "Not enough." Monica set down her pen with a sigh. "And it doesn't compensate for the stress, the broken trust. Some of these people will never recover emotionally." Daniel checked the burgers, his expression thoughtful. "Speaking of recovery, Elijah's teacher called yesterday. Said he stood up for a new kid who was being teased. First time he's really engaged socially since everything happened." A small smile formed on Monica's lips. "That's my boy." Their moment of parental pride was interrupted by the arrival of Mark Chen, their new next-door neighbor. A former prosecutor who had moved in after the previous owners, associates of Richard Harrington, had hastily relocated, Mark had quickly become a friend and ally in the neighborhood's healing process. "Sorry to interrupt," Mark said, holding up an official-looking envelope. "This was delivered to my house by mistake. Looks important." Monica recognized the return address immediately. U.S. Attorney's Office, Southern District. She tore it open, scanning the contents while Daniel thanked Mark and invited him to stay for lunch. "It's from Andrea Torres," Monica announced after Mark departed. Andrea was the lead prosecutor on the Harrington case. Bethany took a plea deal, reduced charges in exchange for testimony against Richard and Corelli. Daniel frowned. After everything she did? The surveillance, the harassment, the school incident. Apparently, her lawyer convinced the prosecutors that she was an unwitting participant in the larger scheme, that she genuinely didn't know about Richard's criminal activities. Monica continued reading. "She'll serve 6 months, followed by 3 years of probation. And Richard, going to trial. His lawyer is still attempting to suppress the evidence from our house, claiming it was obtained under false pretenses." Monica folded the letter. Andrea doesn't seem concerned. Daniel flipped the burgers one last time before removing them from the grill. 6 months seems light for what Bethany put Elijah through. "It does," Monica agreed. "But there's more." As part of her plea, Bethany has to make restitution to the victims, including a formal apology to Elijah. They both turned toward the house, where they could see Elijah through the window, building something intricate with his Lego sets. "I'm not sure if he's ready for that," Daniel said protectively. "Neither am I, but eventually, it might help him process what happened." Daniel nodded, then frowned as his phone vibrated with an incoming call. "It's Jeff," he said, referring to his supervisor. "I need to take this." Monica watched as Daniel's expression shifted from relaxed to intensely focused during the brief conversation. When he ended the call, he stood motionless for a moment, staring at the phone in his hand. "What is it?" she asked. "Vincent Corelli was found dead in his cell this morning. Apparent suicide." Monica felt a chill despite the warm day. "Suicide?" Is that convenient?